Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Couchside Conversation. I'm Kevin Rex, and I'm joined by my partner and colleague, Mike Rudow. And we're excited today because we're talking about 3 mistakes that self-employed people make and what they should avoid. And so the 3 mistakes that we're going to talk about today, 1 is going to be structure. 2 is going to be how to get money out of the business. How do you pay yourself? And then the 3rd one is around retirement planning, something that they oftentimes forget or maybe overfund.
Yeah.
So to start, let's talk about structure. This can get complicated. We're not attorneys, we're not CPAs, but let's talk a little bit about the mistake to avoid is to do what when structuring a new business?
So there's a lot that goes into formulating a new business, right? And a lot of times people, I feel like, are so excited about the opportunity to become business owners that they rush into creating a business without putting a lot of thought into what the right entity for that business is. When in reality, the structure of the business, the entity type, could have really severe tax consequences in the long run if it's not structured properly based on the type of business in the beginning.
Sure. And I think sometimes, right, like you said, you're excited for the business. You're like, I don't know, just give me one. I want to start selling or growing.
You do a little bit of research, like this sounds good. I'm going to start it, an LLC. I'm going to start an S Corp.
Yeah,
We're
your
going to
friend
launch
did
this
that,
business.
so I'm going to do that. Yeah.
And in reality, what you need is to kind of take a step back and say, okay, what is my 3 to 5 year trajectory for this business? What are my goals? Is it going to be me as the sole owner? Am I going to have partners? Are they going to be owner operators? Are they going to be financial partners, right? There's a lot of things that go into the thought process before you actually should decide on the structure of a business. And right, when you think of the different structures you have, you've got one, a sole proprietorship, right? Where if you're a sole proprietor, it is not a legal entity. You are taking on all legal liability yourself. Any income that's generated is passed through straight to you, and it's fully taxed with self-employment income, right? It's as simple as it gets, right? If you're a freelancer, if there's not a lot of risk in the business that you're doing, that's okay, right? Next, you've got an LLC, right? A limited liability company. LLCs are unique because they can either be taxed like a sole proprietor, but give you liability protection. So we're a sole proprietor, it's, you've got the legal liability. Under an LLC, you have that liability protection because it is a legal entity. What also makes an LLC unique is that you can elect different tax structures with an LLC. You can make an S Corp election, you can make a C Corp election, or it could be taxed as a pass-through like a sole proprietor. LLCs are great for flexibility. You could bring on different types of partners. You could bring on outside investors. You could bring in foreign investments in some cases, institutional money in some cases, right? There's a lot of ifs.
Seems like it gives you a lot of options.
It
right?
does, but it also depends on the type of business, the state, the location of the business. Okay. So that's why having the right team around you, having an attorney that can help guide you through that once you know what you want out of your business and what kind of the projection of the business is. And then you've got, you can be a corporation, right, incorporated. And with that, you could either have an S Corp election or a C Corp election. With the S Corp election, there's a lot of benefit tax-wise for that, but there is some restrictions. So with an S Corp, you could have only 100 shareholders or less. Mm-hmm. As far as raising outside capital, it is not as easy because there's only one share class, right? So if you've got multiple owners and some are owner-operators, but some are just financial owners, it doesn't make sense in that situation. So really understanding where your funding is going to come from, but it's also in that corporate structure, so it is more formally structured, which can be beneficial if you need bank loans or things of that nature. So also things to think about. And then there's a C corporation. And a C corporation is best if you're a startup that has a huge growth trajectory. You're looking for possible institutional capital, foreign investment, VC or private equity funding. You've got the corporate formalities, so meeting minutes, filings, but you also have the opportunity for unlimited shareholders, and you can essentially go public or have unlimited shares to sell. So there's just a lot more flexibility, kind of the gold standard if you envision your business taking off.
so we're both business owners, being partners here at Morton, and my wife owns a couple businesses on her own. And I remember when she was getting started, I think like most business owners, you get into it thinking you're going to grow this business, but you also make that decision of what type of entity kind of based on what's easiest for you in that moment. Yeah. So what you said really resonates with me. Having a 1, 3, 5, kind of 10-year plan for where you want to take that business is really important. Yeah. And so for us, it kind of came down to an LLC taxed as an S Corp or actually incorporating and becoming an S Corp. And when we looked at it, the LLC really beneficial if you're going to take on outside investors. They're not going to be involved in the business, private equity type stuff. That was never our goal. She kind of wanted to be the main owner. And then on top of that, as far as being the S Corp, she can get bank financing because she's incorporated. It makes it a lot easier. If she wanted to bring on partners that are active in the business, the share class didn't matter. Right. So we kind of went through that. We wanted the benefits of the taxation of the S Corp, but the LLC didn't fit as nicely as incorporating.
Yeah, you didn't need the flexibility from it. You needed kind of that corporate structure to give you a little bit more credibility. And that makes sense, but it's because you guys thought through it. You had a 3-5 year vision of what the business was going to be, how you were going to grow into that eventual, the eventual goals of your business. And you made that decision based on that, which is exactly what we want to kind of help our clients and anyone that needs help, like really feel like they're envisioning before they make that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And her plan would be to eventually sell in the future, and the S Corp's a nice structure for that.
Yeah. Now, speaking of your wife's business, which I know you're involved in, the second part of this conversation is how to take income, right? And I know that can be very challenging for some business owners, especially if, say, you're in an S Corp, on how much should I pay myself for salary? How much of that should be distributions? What's the benefit of either or? Can you kind of walk me through, why you guys or how you guys do that and your thought process behind it?
Yeah, it's not easy actually, and I think this is probably the conversations we have most about the business is money's coming in, and oftentimes the business, if you're a small business owner or a new business owner, your income's not necessarily predictable or consistent. There's a lot of ebbs and flows to it, and so it's figuring out, okay, if I'm going to take a W-2 income, and for her as an S Corp, she has to take a reasonable salary, so she can't just pay herself $1, has to be reasonable for her role, but she also has to make sure she has enough money to make that payment every single paycheck. And the benefit of going W-2 versus taking things as distributions is you're starting to pay into Social Security. And so over time, you're going to build that benefit into the future. The downside, though, is that you're paying Social Security and Medicare tax. You're paying that FICA tax. Yeah. And I think it's 15.3% if you're a business owner, because you're paying both the employee and the employer side. Yeah. So W-2 income is not as tax efficient as taking distributions. So we sit down and we created with our CPA and attorney what's the right amount for her to take as W-2, and then the distributions come out as necessary and as needed, because then the next part is how much to leave in the business, how much to take out and spend personally. She does have business partners, so then that complicates it. If you're taking a distribution, it has to be equal amongst the shareholders and owners to be the right amount. And so
because you're an S Corp.
Because we're an S Corp. So if she takes a certain amount, whatever percentage, her business partners have to take the same amount. So it just creates some complexities. And I think one other thing that goes into it too, and business owners have a really cool benefit, is they can write a lot of things off through the business. If they have business needs, whether it be cars or travel or dining out, oftentimes, I know most of the business owners we know, every meal they've ever had has been for a business purpose. Yeah. As you have partners, that gets complicated too. Or what if your partner wants to drive a Ferrari and you're comfortable driving a Honda Accord? How do you balance that out? Or they want to take their family on vacation all the time. That's putting your business at risk because they're doing things that maybe could lead to an audit or, under some investigation. So we play this game of how can we be as tax efficient as possible, get money out in the right way, keep the business afloat and make sure we have enough in that for rainy days or downturns, but then also expensing things that are legal, but making sure that we're not taking money out of the business to pay for things that could actually be run through the business.
Yeah. No, and with that, you've got an appropriate salary. You're taking appropriate distributions based on, how many different owners are of that S Corp and kind of an agreed upon amount. Are there any other benefits with the distribution side of it from a tax perspective that, you think about optimizing when in like a S Corp structure?
Yeah, so that's a great question because the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and now it's been extended through this administration, you get what's called the QBI deduction. So it's a 20% deduction on distributions if you meet certain qualifications.
Yeah.
And so that's another way. You're not paying the 15.3 FICA tax and you're getting a 20% deduction. You can see how that benefit, you want to take as much in distributions as you can,
Right.
obviously doing it all structured in the right way. So for business owners and S Corps, for us personally, that's, most of our income comes through partner distributions.
So that's meaningful tax savings. And, it comes down to putting some time and energy into having a plan going into it. A lot of owners don't know what they don't know, so they don't necessarily know what they're missing out on, but having the right advisors around you and then having a plan of how you're going to be taking your salary and your distributions.
It matters. And I know you and I were talking about one of your clients that was going through this.
Yeah, no, I recently started working with a young woman who runs a marketing company, and for years, her marketing company was somewhat flat, and she's structured as an LLC taxed in a traditional LLC way. So taxed as a sole proprietor. Right, yeah. So everything's coming through. She's taking distributions essentially when she needs it. So they're pretty sporadic, taking money out of the business. Everything that she's taking out is subject to self-employment tax, which is that 15.3 or whatever percent.
Not that efficient.
Right, not efficient at all. But also, she's growing a family, and she was trying to get qualified for a mortgage loan. And lenders don't see those types of distribution as favorable because it's not consistent income, right? So, and it was also hard for her to put away for retirement plans because, again, she didn't know how much she was going to need to take out to use for life. It was kind of sporadic and there was no consistency to it. But her business has been growing and making more money. And so we sat down and we developed a plan, and we actually changed the tax structure of that LLC to an S Corp election, where now she's paying herself a fair salary. And with that salary, she's actually been able to qualify now for a mortgage loan. So she's been able to get a house.
They see the consistent income.
Right, they see the consistent income, but also we've been able to do some planning on where she's able to now put into a SEP IRA and build that retirement account. And when she's taking distributions out of the business, those distributions are no longer subject to self-employment tax. So there was a lot of benefit by just understanding her situation, what her needs were, and then kind of re-examining what changes can we make to optimize this from an income and a tax standpoint.
Yeah, no, I love that. So we talked about the structure, avoid just kind of picking a random structure because it matters. Yeah. Getting income out of the business, the way that you choose to do that efficiently matters. And you talked a couple times about retirement planning. This is something I'm passionate about for business owners because oftentimes they look at their business as a sale at the end of their life, the end of their working years to be able to fund their retirement. And they don't always do traditional retirement. They kind of avoid that. And I think one thing that we need to talk about is avoiding that, right? So let's talk a little bit about the retirement plan options.
I mean, when you think if you're a W-2 employee, your ability to contribute to retirement plans are, it's tough because you have really no control over what's presented to you, right? Your company might offer a 401k. If they do offer a 401k, great. Now you have the opportunity where you can contribute up to $23,500. If you're over 50, you can get another $7,500. If you're between 60 and 63, there's another catch up, right? So max, you're putting away around $34,000 a year. If you're a business owner, you could be putting away $70,000. You could be putting away hundreds of thousands of dollars if the entity is set up right and if you're taking your income the right way. So there's a lot of opportunity to be putting away meaningful amounts of retirement money and avoiding paying the taxes now, if that makes sense for you for a financial plan. Because as a business owner, you have the ability to contribute to what's called a SEP IRA. You have the ability to contribute to a solo 401k. And those are two plans that non-business owners don't have the ability to contribute to. And those are plans where you could put away up to $70,000 a year, tax deferred. You get that tax deferred growth, and then eventually you'll pay the taxes on. But also, those are defined contribution plans. There's defined benefit plans. There's pensions. There's cash balance plans. If you're making a substantial amount of income and you want to avoid paying those upper tax brackets, you could put away hundreds of thousands of dollars into those plans by just doing the due diligence, having the right planning going into it, and setting up those structures. So retirement planning for business owners is essential if that's what makes sense based on the financial plan. Like you said, the other side of that though is there's a lot of people who are trying to avoid paying taxes now,
business owners hate paying taxes.
And so they're putting away as much into retirement accounts as they can, and then they sell their business when they're 50, and they have no income. And it's like, well, all of my net worth is put into these tax deferred accounts where they can't touch it without penalty until 59 and a half. So now what do you do? Right? So it's also about understanding, like, what's your goal? Is your goal to exit that business as quickly as possible? Then maybe you should be pulling that money out, paying the taxes, and building a taxable account so that that can build, and then eventually that will replace the income that you had from the business because you've invested it in an income generating portfolio. There is no right answer though. It's just you have more opportunity as a business owner to be able to contribute to a retirement plan or be able to start pulling money out of that business and contributing to a taxable account. Because like you said, not every business entity is going to be a transferable business. So understanding, is there enterprise value that can be transferable in this business, or is this business Kevin Rex or Mike Rudow to where when we're done, the business is done? And that means if that's the case, we should be trying to build up those investment accounts as much as possible.
Like a lifestyle business, right? Where the business depends on that person.
On the owner, yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit on it a few times. Like, planning is so important. Like, being a business owner, oftentimes W-2 employees in general, they look at business owners, they have so many options, they have so much flexibility. That is, I think, the best part about being a business owner. You also have a lot of responsibility and a lot of weight on your shoulders. Yeah. But if you don't take advantage of those opportunities, if you don't work with a team of professionals, I mean, just think about how great it is if there was like a strategist team out there where business owners could talk to them and get all the information. Right? It's, I'm joking, but dead serious. Like, the things that you and Joe and our team does for business owners is to take all of those options, figure out what's best for them. How much should I put in retirement plans? How much should I pay taxes on and have in taxable assets? What am I going to sell my business for, if anything? Because you can't put everything in retirement. You can't put nothing in retirement. You need to take advantage of those options. Yeah. So for all those business owners out there, to take advantage of the flexibility, to understand your options and make deliberate choices versus just kind of going with the flow and focus only on growing your business and waking up being like, I could have done things a lot better.
Yeah. And that's what we try to really avoid with our business owners is don't put your head in the sand and just grow to grow, right? Build a team around you of people who you trust, who are experts in their given fields, and then have a plan to make the right decisions so that at the end of the day, you're optimizing your tax, your income, and all of the other strategies.
That's great. Yeah, so 3 things to avoid. Don't just pick a random structure. Make sure you're doing a plan 3, 5, 10 years out. Make sure you're understanding the most tax efficient way to get money out of your business. And then definitely don't avoid saving for retirement through those traditional ways that business owners get access to. So thank you so much for your time. We are going to move into everyone's favorite segment, or at least our favorite segment, the this or that, and we're going to have a little fun with that. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. So let's jump into this or that. First question for you. Would you rather be self-employed or would you rather be an employee with a W-2?
I would rather be married to someone who is an employee with a W-2 and myself be self-employed so that we get the best of both worlds.
That's nice. Good answer. Kind of a cheap, but a good answer.
Yeah, right. For you, would you rather expense your travel through your business or pay it yourself?
Is it a business trip?
Isn't everything a business trip?
I mean, it can be. I think that I'm not paying for my kids. I'm not paying for, horseback riding, but there are parts of the trip that I think if there's a legitimate business, of course, I want to expense everything we can. Yeah. So for you, bookkeeping, do you prefer to keep bookkeeping in-house or do you source out for it?
Source out. I trust the professionals. I'd rather pay a little bit more knowing that I'm optimizing strategy than rely on myself and my employees who probably specialize in other things rather than tax and bookkeeping.
Yeah, that's important, I think. So,
last one. You maxing out that retirement plan, or are you taking that money out, paying the taxes, and putting it elsewhere?
Well, I mean, I like to be successful enough where I'm maxing it out and taking it out. I just think it depends, right? You want retirement assets, so I'm always putting money in, but I also want taxable assets, so it's a blend depending on your situation. Just for answers, I'm paying the tax and taking it out.
Yeah. I like the first approach where why don't you max out the retirement and use it as motivation to make more so that now you have both. You have max retirement and you've got money that you could pull out and put towards trips or building a taxable account.
It's as easy as you say.
Yeah. Just let it motivate you.
Great. Mike, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us, and please check out our other episodes on Couchside Conversation.
Wow.